Hello, everybody. Welcome to Go Global World, where we discuss an important, challenging questions that are uh, aimed to help entrepreneurs from around the world to build businesses and enter other countries. And today, I would like to discuss this kind of a routine question at the same time a very challenging question that helps your business actually go up and running and achieve results that may lead to your future success. And this is a go-to-market strategy. And especially this is very interesting for SaaS companies because I've brought Thomas Abraham, um, who will be discussing specific cases and specific steps and advice that will help you to use go-to-market strategy for SaaS companies. Welcome, Thomas. Happy to have you here.
Yeah, wonderful, Daniel. It's a great pleasure to be on this platform with you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Well, Thomas has joined us recently and expressed his willingness to help our global companies and he, especially those who are SaaS companies, with go-to-market strategy. Thomas is an advisor of HR tech and SaaS companies on their business strategy, go-to-market, strategic alliances, and go global expansion. And he's also has a in his portfolio he's of T ventures and HR includes businesses with innovative products, solutions in human capital management, learning experience, talent acquisition, employee experience, assessments, HR analytics, many more, blockchain infrastructure as a service, AI, and more. Well, Thomas is streaming from India, and you're based in India. Am I correct? Right
Yeah,
now,
I'm based in New Delhi. Yes, correct.
that's awesome. Right now, I'm in Moscow, Russia, about to jump my plane to the United States. So, well, it's and it's actually very usual for us to have people from around the globe to share their expertise. So, Thomas, I gave very short introduction about yourself. Please give a little more words about yourself, and let's get started.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Daniel. Yeah, I think your introduction was great. But yeah, just to share with everybody, I spent about 30 years in the corporate world, leading companies like Walters Kluwer and Sage Software in India. And over the last 6.5 years, 6 years, I've been in a very exciting space, which is working with early stage B2B SaaS startups. And most of them were pre-revenue when I've got involved, and it's been such a pleasure and honor to work with real exciting young founders and and really helping them scale their businesses. So it's really been a wonderful journey in the last 6 months, and I look forward to this conversation.
Awesome. Well, today's topic we have innovation and go-to-market, the new game changer in SaaS. And I have a third question to you. Why SaaS, software as a service, is booming?
Well, Dallin, I must tell you a small story before I get into that. This is a 15-year-old story, and I was I used to work for a global company which had a legacy software business, largely in the business application space, largely addressing SME and the mid market segments. And they were a global leader, and 60% of their revenues every year came from maintenance, and all their products were largely on premise or desktop. And at this global conference, one of the senior leaders actually stood up and said that SaaS is a pie in the sky. And those days, Salesforce was doing really well, but this particular company had put all its bets on the on-premise and the desktop space, and they were doing exceedingly well. So there was very little investment which went into the SaaS space as far as this particular company went. And and guess what? Over a period of time, and they had fantastic brands. In fact, we had great market share even in markets like India. We had fantastic companies using our platforms. But what really happened was that in the subsequent years, we've had several SaaS startups which came up, and many of them were in similar domains at this particular company, and they really felt the competitive pressure. And over time, they exited several markets, and they actually sold several of their product portfolio companies as well. So I guess this has been this has really been the story of many a legacy software company. And so clearly, SaaS has made the difference, and it has made a lot of legacy software companies sit up and actually watch out for them. And
Right.
and we clearly know that for very various obvious reasons, SaaS is booming because today businesses are looking for standardized products. They're looking for products which have best of breed processes, which can be implemented without a fuss. And even if enterprises require customizations, most of these SaaS platforms have the ability for you to build in those customizations without really impacting the core platform. Apart from this, obviously we know that upgrades are fairly easy and fairly seamless. And I recollect my days in the legacy software company, where it was fairly time consuming and resource hungry when we actually wanted to do some significant upgrades for our customers. And on the other hand, we are also seeing a boom as far as hosting platforms are concerned, be it AWS or Azure or so many others. I mean, they really take away your pain of investment, of managing your application, and so on and so forth. Therefore, that's another reason why I would why companies would actually want to subscribe rather than build and host it themselves. And furthermore, if you really look at it, most of the newer technologies are born on the cloud, and most of the new technologies are driving
Yeah.
new functionality, they're driving innovation, and they're all born on the cloud. And when you look at consumers, today's consumer is mobile first, right? I mean, they really are wanting everything on their mobile application, and more so with a hybrid work scenario where people are on the move all the time. I mean, like you're at the airport right now and you're using a cloud product, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if you were using a desktop product there. And finally, from a business standpoint, it's also making things very competitive. So while SaaS companies are growing fast, it's also very competitive for them because actually it's very easy for you to replace a product, because it's the cost of switching for an enterprise is very low because they haven't really done any major investment apart from a subscription. So actually, SaaS companies also need to watch out. There's great opportunity, but there's plenty of competition even in highly competitive spaces.
Yep. And considering that the top markets, especially the United States, they are booming in SaaS space. And if you're looking at venture models, they are looking for a small team that can scale fast. And
Yeah,
software as a service sometimes might be the best solution because you
yeah.
subscribe, you pay with credit card, and then you can go actually global.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what are the critical success factors for a SaaS business?
Yeah, I think clearly yeah, it's important for the company to identify, what are the gaps in the market, right? I mean, what are the gaps and in specific segments that they wish to operate. So when you're actually building a product, you need to be aware of what are the gaps. That's one. Second thing is that there also could be opportunities for companies to look at adjacencies. So
Yeah.
let me just give you a couple of examples just to illustrate what I'm trying to say. So for instance, there's a company that I'm familiar with by the name of Zictel, which is in the talent marketplace space. And what we discovered was that there are lots of companies in the learning technology space, and one of the adjacencies in learning technology is actually how do you collaborate with people. So one is how do you get content to learn, but how do you learn in the flow of work, which means how do you have access to experts, how do you have access to mentors, and so on and so forth. So there's an adjacency with this company saw, and therefore really looked at building something. So I think that's the first step. The second thing is that is there innovation in its true self. For instance, every founder thinks that he or she is has a great innovation, but is that actually happening? So again, let me give you an example. 5 years ago, I came across a company called Infido in the employee experience space. And those days, most companies did what they called annual surveys and quarterly surveys, which were lengthy, which were anonymous. And employees never really took it seriously because they always felt that there was nothing in it for them. It was always about the company and very little about them. So Infido came out with the concept of having a bot which has a conversation with the employee on the day he or she joins, and on the day 7, day 14, and so on and so forth. And a lot of people actually felt they were talking to a human being because it was very conversational. The bot was able to empathize and ask follow-up questions if you had a negative sentiment and so on. And there was a clear action plan that was getting defined, based on the output that was coming out. So I think the clear thing is, therefore, do you have an innovation? The other thing is, the other very important thing, which I'm sure we will talk further in the conversation, is establishing product market fit, and we'll talk about it later. So I really won't,
Yeah,
dwell deep
yeah,
into
yeah.
that.
I'll get there. I'll get there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but my interest here, like I want to go step by step, and if we take, for example, medtech devices, and they have lots of priorities to get to the market. But the first priority they should take is to actually get FDA approval, because without this FDA, and they won't be able to actually get to the market, just because a regulator won't let them. What should be the priorities for of an early stage SaaS company?
Yeah, so I sort of firmly believe that unlike 5 years ago, there's a great opportunity today because you have a fantastic ecosystem of incubators and accelerators. Now,
Yeah,
if you looked at it 5 years ago, most companies had limited options. They pretty much had to do everything themselves. But there were a few incubators and accelerators around the place. But today it is proliferated right across the globe. Every country has it. So based on what country you would like to enter, or would you like to be in your home country, I think it's extremely important. And this is even more important because failure rates are extremely high in SaaS. So it's important, to my mind, for a company to have an ecosystem around it, which can really help it grow, right from validating the technology, validating the product, ensuring that the right doors are open,
yeah,
and getting some heavyweights to really help you. And linked to that is, how do you get some good advisors to sort of collaborate with you. So I think these are some priorities, but I also believe that I think founders need to step forward and also start building brand at a very early stage. And I've always believed that brand building at an early stage can follow a principle of what I call a zero marketing budget, because today you've got social media, and if you're smart and if you've got anchor customers, then how do you leverage your anchor customers? How do you make them your fans? How do you make them your brand ambassadors? I
yeah.
think I think these are small things, but to my mind, they're very, very critical for an early stage company to start looking at it, because that should be in their DNA if they want to actually grow fast. And finally, what is the vision? Does
Mhm.
the startup do they have a global vision, or are they going to be regional? So, for example, if their product is governed by regulations, like, for example, payroll products, accounting products, then you're limited to a territory. But otherwise, SaaS means global. So, do the founders have that fire in the belly for having a global vision? So to my mind, these are. I mean, there are so many other regulatory priorities and so on and so forth. But what I meant is that these are some critical ingredients that a SaaS company needs to have if it really, wishes to grow rapidly.
Yeah, and I would just, I mean, it's hard to add anything here. Say that when you were speaking about making this a global brand, I would actually even emphasize on this when you are working, selecting your target audience. Just focus on customer development. So becoming not just another product, but becoming the best product or solution for this specific target audience, because they have a pain you can solve. And
Yes,
this
that's
is
right.
how I slowly move to the question you want to discuss before, is the market fit, product market
Yeah.
fit. Well, why is the product market fit critical for SaaS companies?
Well, I was just doing some research on product market fit recently, and I came across some very interesting statistics. So, the founder of a well known SaaS company has said that 80% of SaaS companies never make product market fit. Isn't that an amazing statistic? That's one thing. The second thing that I read in another study by a company called Startup Genome was that startups need 2 to 3 times longer to validate their market than most founders expect. And this underestimation often creates the pressure to scale prematurely. And that can be suicidal for a company which wants to scale prematurely. And another point that I heard that I was reading was that, as a thumb rule, people say that market fit means that you should at least have customers in double digits, which is 10 plus customers. There are other people who take more aggressive views. And for instance, companies in the US or other experts in the US say that if you're a US based SaaS company, then they say that if you have 100,000, up to 100,000 MRR, only then could you have considered yourself to have some semblance of product market fit. So it varies from market to market. But having said that, I think product market fit is extremely important, because that's the only way that you're actually solving a pain point of your customer. That's the only way what is your target audience, who are the people that you wish to talk to. And if you don't have clarity on this, you might end up spending a lot of money, and then build something which is commercially not viable. Or you might just burn a lot of cash hiring people and scaling prematurely, and sort of so on and so forth. Yeah.
I agree. Um, but let's get to like a little bit challenging part of SaaS companies. Most of the SaaS companies are trying to start from the US, even though they might be starting from outside the US. They're still trying to get to the US market because of getting good funding in there and good evaluation. And but the US is a red ocean. So my question to you: are SaaS companies struggling with product innovation in businesses that are regions and therefore super competitive?
Yeah, I think so. See, I think historically there's been a theory that in every product category, there perhaps will be three companies which will survive. There will be a market leader who will have majority market share, and then there will be a distant second, and then a third who's very close to the second player. But interestingly, what we are seeing in the SaaS world is that even if markets are crowded, there are new entrants coming in all the time, right? So let me just give you some couple of examples just to illustrate what I'm trying to say. So if I look at something like the payroll software, that's a classic red ocean. It's there all over the world. Margins are declining rapidly. There are HRMS players who operate in the SMB, mid market, and the enterprise space. There are vendors who provide outsourced payroll services, and the number of vendors in HRMS and outsourced payroll services are also increasing, right, by the day. And people are taking geography specific approaches. They're taking price specific, strategic options, and there's very little product innovation happening there. Because how much innovation will you really do? And as a consequence, there is huge downward pressure on spiraling, price downwards. The other space, which is again which is a big red ocean, for instance, is this entire area of what we call as conversational AI or chatbot platforms. Now, 5 years ago, this was unique, and there was a lot of excitement and action when somebody had that platform. But today, that platform has got commoditized, and everybody has what is called a DIY platform, and people are taking a horizontal approach, and there is a big price war, and they're struggling to actually differentiate. So so all these segments are red oceans. Companies are struggling. At the same time, interestingly, there are new companies entering the same space, and we'll come to that in due course. But and the other amazing fact is that there are people willing to fund these new entrants as well.
Yeah. You're speaking about go-to-market strategy and also innovations, and most of the SaaS companies are innovative companies. So, can innovation in go-to-market be a game changer? And of course, why and how and what is an innovation could be in go-to-market?
Yeah, I think so. I'm a firm believer that the next, mega trend will be innovation and go to market. And
Mm,
I think founders assume that a lot of money has to be invested in the product. A lot of money has to be invested in accessing, acquiring customers and the brand, and these are correct. You need to do that. But I think so. So therefore, many of them do not really closely look at out of box go to market. They look at traditional go to market, which is, how do you really generate leads? How do you have a target segment? And marketing strategy, outbound, inbound, and what have you. So that's all, regular stuff that you anyway need to do. So I thought, let me just take an example of a couple of these red oceans that I already spoke of, and try and give a spin on how innovation, go-to-market innovation, can be executed in those red oceans that we already spoke about, right? So, for instance, if I look at the payroll business today, one of the trends that's happening, and this is also because of the pandemic, is that we're seeing digital transformation across the board, not just at large enterprises, but even
yeah,
at small businesses, right? So everybody wants to automate. So this has opened up the opportunity uh, for uh, for companies which operate in that ecosystem. For example, there are payment gateways which operate in that small business area. There are e-commerce platforms which operate in that space. There are B2B marketplaces that operate in that space. Now, all these companies which are in that ecosystem are also now saying that, look, we want to add on other services around it because we want to own that segment. So, for instance, I know of payment gateway companies who have launched payroll, or they have partnered with a payroll company, or they have acquired a payroll company. So, it offers an opportunity for existing payroll SaaS companies to partner with some of these companies. Likewise, accounting software. That's again become very hot because there's a great opportunity for them to now really collaborate with these ecosystem players. So, what's also happened is that the ecosystem is starting to shift significantly, which is opening up opportunities. So it's important that even if you're in a red ocean, you have to keep your eyes open, and you have to have an open mind to really be able to, collaborate with people so that you can drive some innovation as far as go to market is concerned. And then I also want to briefly touch upon the second example, which is the chatbot platform, which is again a red ocean. So here again, I want to give an example of how horizontal companies can actually build specific vertical use cases and embed it. So, as an example, you can have a chatbot platform which builds an HR bot, and instead of trying and marketing it themselves, which is what a lot of people would do, they can in turn go and plug it into an HRMS platform, because the HRMS platform, the value to them would be that I've got a bot which adds a lot of value to my company, and this company will keep upgrading it. And for the for the chatbot platform, they have access to the entire customer base of the HRMS company. Or it could be a bot in the financial services space, which is maybe a lending platform. So you build use cases in the lending space and you plug it into a lending platform. So it's a win-win scenario for both the lending platform and for the bot platform. So even though you're operating in a red ocean, there are ways in which, if you creatively look at your go-to-market, you can actually start, building some opportunities. And to my mind, that's the reason why investors believe that they still need to put money in this red ocean.
yeah. Well, you are right now connected to our global audience, and our community, global world, actually promotes the entrepreneurship access for anyone who wants to start a business. But more than that, we are trying to say to people that it's not about local business. If you're building a startup, you're already by default global, and you just need to find the right ways to access other markets. And this is what we are trying to give our community members. And the question, and this is probably my final question to you, what should be the strategy for SaaS companies seeking to expand globally?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, Daniel, I think SaaS companies, which unless they are regulated or they are very, very addressing a very domestic need, they should have ambition. They should have a global ambition, right? And that's one thing. The second thing is that I also realize is that very often when you are building a product in your home country, you may realize that the home country is not your market because you have built a significant innovation, and perhaps your home country is not yet up to that level of that innovation. So perhaps you need to go to a more developed market for actually launching. So I think that's the beauty of SaaS. You can start anywhere, right? You can build a product anywhere and you can launch anywhere. And therefore, to my mind, one of the key things is that and there are lots of things for them to navigate, right? So they need to navigate a product market fit. They need to navigate messaging, positioning. How do they get pilot customers? What segment to focus on? Pricing, channels, partnerships, and what have you. So traditionally, a lot of SaaS companies have taken an approach of, if I want to enter the US, for example, many companies have said we'll take a remote approach. We'll be in our home country. We will burn some money on some outbound and inbound, lead generation, and then look at engaging with those customers remotely. Then there's another set of SaaS companies which have said, no, we'll take a direct entry approach, which is that the co-founder relocates to a market like the US, and then they participate in events, exhibitions, and then try to do some work over there. And the third area, which to my mind is the most effective and which is really a more structured approach, is really to look at a business accelerator, right? Because, and I would really recommend that approach because I know of companies which have taken the first approach and got nowhere, who have taken the second approach, spent a lot of money and got nowhere. And when they went the third time round, they went through a business accelerator, which was a more structured approach. Because it's also important to focus with a business accelerator who understands your domain. They probably have some expertise and have delivered in that particular space. They have advisors with that kind of capability, with that ability, who understand the domain. And secondly, I think when you go overseas, you need to really again look at your product market fit, because you may have a product market fit in your home country, but the product market fit in a market like the US could be so different given the cultural differences, given regulatory requirements, customer needs, the competitive space, and so on and so forth. Therefore, it's important to invest adequate time and do adequate research, and to be able to talk to your target audience to really understand their needs. And it's important to do that in a very structured fashion. So I think that's another very important thing for a company to do when they're looking at a market like the US. They also need to clearly define what is the target segment, because the market, and what is the what particular geography in the US they want to focus in, because the market is massive, right? So you have to be very targeted. You have to know, okay, this is, I want to focus in the SMB market. I want to be on the West Coast, focus on these particular states in phase one. So it's got to be a very structured approach. And you need somebody on the ground in the US to help you. And that's why I keep saying, get a good accelerator who have a bunch of advisors who understand the lay of the land, and who can really guide you in that particular journey.
And
So these
yeah,
are some important things. I mean, there are many more things that you need to do, but I think getting some basics right is really critical.
and they have connections, they have a proper understanding of the culture, and
Yeah,
most importantly, they have a reputation in front of
yeah,
these potential customers or partners or investors you might look for. Well,
that's right.
that was a very productive and targeted conversation. I think we nailed this topic, and I really appreciate your help to our global community. Before we close, feel free to share your final thoughts to our global audience. And on this note, we will close our session.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, firstly, if you're a SaaS company, think big, think global. I think that's the real most important thing as a founder. Think global. You look at the big picture rather than being very, very narrow. Number one. Number two, I think, seek help. Use the ecosystem. Don't try and do everything yourself, because 80% of SaaS companies fail, right? So try and leverage everybody that you can. Get as much help as you can. In the early stages, that's extremely important. Once you've raised your series A or B and C, then it's a different kettle of fish. But I think look for good people to be around you so that you can take the right guidance and actually move forward.
And that was Thomas Abraham, Managing Director, Hexa Global Ventures. Thomas, thank you for having being with us here. And everyone, please like this stream, share it across your network so more entrepreneurs can benefit out of this conversation. Of course, leave your comments below and subscribe to this channel, because this is how you will learn from people like Thomas, joining us globally, sharing their expertise, the most innovative thoughts and steps you build business. All right, everyone, and have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Yeah.